CD Projekt Red shares an update on their new Witcher game and other projects. PlayStation revealed more plans about their future with some interesting tidbits. Microsoft is seemingly striking a big deal, and we got way more gaming news to go over, including the latest Summer Game Fest rumors. So thanks for joining the weekly roundup, and let's go. Let's start with the biggest reveals from the state of play, and after that I will share my take. Now, Sony always likes to share more details in a blog post after the show, like for Where Winds Meet. They also shared this open world screenshot, because while they only showed boss fights in the trailer, it is an open world game, just like Ghost of Tsushima, but then set in China. It will also have multiplayer, more integrated. It's not afraid to get fully mythical, as we saw in those boss fights. I actually got to play it already. I streamed it for a couple of hours, and one of the boss fights I got to do there was a ton of fun. No release date given yet. It should be out on PC first in China this summer, and then go to other regions. I'll of course keep you up to date here on the channel, because I'm totally interested in playing this free-to-play game. But my biggest surprise was Ballad of Antara, also a free-to-play action RPG, but this one has multiple playable characters and seems to feature more linear levels, but that will also include some exploration, so think God of War. You can play it alone or with up to 3 friends. It features story missions, dungeons. It's out in 2025 and has big post-launch plans with new characters and zones and a continuation of the story. Look, I'm all for them trying this business model on a more linear story-driven game, so bring it on. A beta should be out before launch. Path of Exile 2 looked really great as well. It will have couch co-op and cross-play and will launch at the end of the year in early access on PS5, also free to play. We'll totally give this a shot as well. Silent Hill 2, on the other hand, totally looked better than the previous trailer, but still they had weird things like what's up with this girl's face. We did learn a release date though, October 8th. Astrobot, I think, totally stole the show with an amazing trailer showcasing a ton of different gameplay we can expect. It will have 6 galaxies and over 80 levels. Astro will have 50 new abilities. I still think the DualSense features in Astro's Playroom are unrivaled, and this game will take full advantage of the controller as well. There are 70 new types of enemies with big bosses that in particular looked very impressive. There will be a ton of fan service with other PlayStation franchises. Look, even if this game is not for you, I do think you can agree that it looks very polished and fun, right? Totally expecting high scores for this, and it launches September 6th already. I will totally be playing it after I finished Black Myth Wukong and Star Wars Outlaws, that of course launched a few weeks before it. A positive thing about the state of play was totally that it had a ton of release dates and release windows, with in particular Sony's own games launching 3 months after this show, which really seems to be the new tactic moving forward. Yeah, the big focus was on Concord with a pretty nice cinematic trailer, Guardians of the Galaxy vibes. The line from this lady were a bit on the nose though, did not like that.
Almost dying is the best way to learn how not to die. Or something.
Like, if this was a single-player adventure with these characters, I still think it could be fun. But, of course, it's a 5v5 Overwatch-style shooter. And there was really nothing in the gameplay that made me go, oh, that's like very clever and new. The 2 interesting things were that next to the characters' unique abilities, there's also equipment that stays between rounds, and that every week there will be a new cutscene added to the game to show the personality of the characters, which is a fun idea and something to look forward to, I guess. But the personalities and those cutscenes feel very disconnected from the actual very uninspired looking gameplay. Like, they're fighting each other, but they're also chilling on the ship together. Helldivers 2 worked for Sony because it was something new. People did not have this experience before. Hard to see this get popular, especially because it's also a paid game. We don't know how much it costs. There will be a beta in July. Maybe it plays better than it looks. We will see. It launches August 23rd. But yeah, them showing Marvel Rivals in that same show that looked like a way more fun team-based shooter was maybe not the best idea. There will be a beta for this also in July, and PlayStation gets a exclusive Spider-Man suit. Dynasty Warriors Origins also deserves a shout out. It's coming 2025. Like, that's of course the thing of these games, that you fight many soldiers on screen. I think it looked pretty impressive, but my favorite game of the show was totally Monster Hunter Wilds. Also looks way bigger in scale than the previous titles. Your main character talks now, which is a pretty big deal. They showed a new sword-gun combo, but all the 14 previous weapon types are also back, and you can switch weapons on the back of your mount, so you can have 2 playstyles per hunt, which is awesome. We will see more on June 7th at Summer Game Fest, with hopefully an early 2025 release date as well. so I'll be keeping an eye out. So yeah, listing the games like this, I think I will totally play at least 5 of them, but the show just missed a big mic drop, an oh my god moment. Like even the last state of play had the Death Stranding 2 trailer that looked very cool. It's mostly that it has been a very long time since we got a new AAA single player game reveal from a Sony owned studio. Wolverine in 2021 is probably the last we got. So just having one of them here, even if it was like a Ghost of Tsushima 2 teaser, we all know it's coming, it would have elevated the show a lot. But yeah, there's a PlayStation 5 Pro coming later in the year, and it seems like a showcase will happen around that, and that will talk more about the games coming beyond 2024, maybe even in 2026. Like, they need incentives for people to upgrade or buy this more expensive hardware, with Tom Henderson, who has been right countless of times, now also saying that there should be a PlayStation showcase towards the end of the year. So that is where we will likely see Ghost of Tsushima 2. I will keep you up to date, but we still have some Sony games. During Summer Game Fest last year, we had the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth trailer and the Spider-Man 2 release date at the kickoff show instead of the showcase. Seems like Sony is ready to announce that LEGO Horizon game, so the June 7th show makes a lot of sense. Maybe they want a more mainstream audience for it instead of only the PlayStation fans. I can see it maybe coming to other platforms like PC and maybe even Switch day one, so maybe that's why they go for that show. Let me know your thoughts, of course, on the state of play. I'm very curious. Drop it in the comments. Before we talk about the future of PlayStation, let's go over some other gaming news first. Of course, if you like these news roundup videos, leave a like. That would really help me out, so thanks for that. And subscribe, because I post one of these every Sunday. Let's go over some quick shots. News stories I will go over quickly, starting with CD Projekt Red, who wants to release major games more quickly. The dream of every big company, of course, because AAA titles now take like 4 to 5 years to make on average. One way they plan to do this is by working on 2 big games at the same time, something they've already been doing with the Phantom Liberty DLC for Cyberpunk. At the peak, 300 developers were working on it, while a smaller team was already doing work on the next Witcher game. Now, if we look at their development teams, we see that the majority, 407 people, are now working on Polaris, which is the big new Witcher game, while a smaller team in the US is working on Orion, the next Cyberpunk game. So the plan is to launch this Cyberpunk sequel faster after the new Witcher game, instead of the 5.5 years that we saw between The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077. Now again, this is what they want to achieve. Overall, and that's what the investor said as well, maybe focus on releasing a polished experience first and not have a Cyberpunk launch again. So I hope they don't forget about that either. CDPR is also collaborating with other studios to make a Witcher 1 remake and a Witcher multiplayer game, while they will continue to focus on big single player titles. And the support for Cyberpunk 2077 is completely over now, by the way. They're really focused on releasing this new Witcher game as soon as possible. In October 2022, the co-founders of Rocksteady left, so way before the release of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Then in January of this year, it was announced that they started a brand new studio, also in London, called 100 Star Games, and now they're scooping up Rocksteady talent to go work for them. So basically, before the release of Suicide Squad, the studio was bleeding high-level developers that jumped ship to this new team. And this might be one of the reasons why the post-launch for the game has been very lackluster so far. Now, I stand by my review. Like, I totally think that playing through the campaign is worth like $20, or when you see it on PS Plus Extra or Game Pass, totally try it out. But the game falls flat after that, and it's very hard to see how Rocksteady can turn this around. So I hope they get the chance to make a different game after this. Although again, the studio is not the same anymore compared to when they launched Batman Arkham Knight. A lot of those developers are now at this new team from Rocksteady co-founders, and a report from Xputer now notes that Xbox has reached an agreement with the Batman Arkham Trilogy creators for a new AAA game. And this should be a AAA action-adventure single-player game. So they're going back to what they're known for, yes please. Probably not with a famous IP this time, maybe something completely new, but then I would guess with the similar stealth and combat that we saw in the Batman games, and probably open world as well. If this rumor is correct, then good on Xbox for funding these devs. Maybe we get a formal announcement at the Xbox show on June 9th. Of course, let me know what you hope to see from this team in the comments down below. We'll be looking at the latest Summer Game Fest rumors and confirmations in a moment. Let's first go over some interesting things we learned from the Sony PlayStation business meeting. For one, even though the focus seems to be heavily on live service games, we know that some big studios inside Sony will still be only focused on single player and narrative. Team Asobi, Insomniac, Santa Monica Studios, Sucker Punch, Naughty Dog, Firesprite, and Housemarque. Like, we know that Insomniac tried a Spider-Man multiplayer game, and Naughty Dog of course did the Last of Us multiplayer. Both are cancelled, so now these teams are just focused on what they do best, which is great news. Now, I do find it interesting that Sucker Punch is also in this category. I would have hoped that they maybe made a full game out of the Ghost of Tsushima Legends multiplayer they did, because that had a ton of potential. But they are a relatively small AAA studio, so they probably need full focus on the big single-player open-world title first. Because Sony namely also has an evolving and multi-genre section for studios, so teams that are doing two genres, so like Guerrilla with the Horizon Online game, and of course they're working on the third single-player title as well. While Band seems to be evolving from being a single-player only studio to a live service studio, with their next game still being open-world with Days Gone features, but also it will have multiplayer and post-launch support. They also have a section for studios only doing live service, nothing crazy here, and partner studios, where we see Nixxes, who's of course doing all the big PC ports. Valkyrie Entertainment is a support studio. They helped Santa Monica with the God of War games recently. So it's super interesting to see Bluepoint here as well, because last we heard they were doing original content instead of a full-on remake. So with them not being in that single player narrative section, tells me that they're maybe adding original content to like the remake of some game instead. Maybe something Bloodborne related after all, or maybe there's like a new Uncharted in development and they're making some original content. Remember that TV ad Sony had where they were basically teasing Uncharted with Nathan's daughter? They also once again show Uncharted as like a major franchise, and they plan to expand audience reach and engagement through new formats and experiences. I would be shocked if we did not get a new Uncharted game during this PS5 generation. Other interesting stats, as discussed last week, is that 50% of the monthly active users are currently still on PS4, which is probably why Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is still launching on old-gen consoles. But PS5 owners do play more than PS4 users, which makes sense. These are more hardcore people that also buy the new stuff. The PS5 in 4 years has already made more money than the PS4 in its whole life cycle. But still, as we see, the profit margins did drop quite a lot in the last 2 years, as the big games that Sony is making of course cost way more, and of course Sony is now also heavily investing in live service. The plan is to use external developers in low-cost regions and AI to lower the cost of making their big AAA single-player games without hurting the quality. At least that is the plan. Also interesting is that they once again confirmed that all their live service games will be day one on PC, as we see with Concord, but single player games will take longer to come to PC, with the goal being to lure PC players to play the sequels on a PlayStation console. Like, it makes sense on paper, but is that really working? God of War Ragnarok is now announced for September to come to PC. Will these people just not wait like a year and a half to play the game on their preferred platform and really buy like a console for $500 to play that game? You would think that Sony has evidence that this actually happens. What they did reveal to us is that on average everyone who buys a PS5 then goes on to spend $731 on accessories and games. So they're probably thinking, okay, the game will sell way less if we don't release it on PC day one, but there will be some people who buy a console and we get way more money out of them than like the copies we would sell on PC. So interesting stuff. Overall, Sony is happy with how it's going. They're gonna continue this trend. Their biggest challenge is really to bring the cost down of their major single player games, but we at least got confirmation that they're working on a ton of them. So hopefully we see some of them revealed later in the year during a showcase. This coming week is going to be big. First, we will get Elden Ring DLC previews on June 4th. People got to play it, so expect to hear impressions and gameplay on YouTube on that day. On June 6th, we will have the summer update for Hogwarts Legacy. It includes a photo mode and new cosmetics. We will do a video going over everything you need to know. And then we have the first big Summer Game Fest show on June 7th. And it seems to include some pretty nice things, like we will get that big 2K reveal, probably Mafia related. The first Descendants will get a release date. There will be a Palworld update. Maybe we get the Alan Wake 2 DLC. Again, Lego Horizon, Black Myth Wukong, Monster Hunter will be there. We will be live reacting, link in the pinned comment, so I hope you can watch with us. Xbox is on Sunday, and I will actually be in LA. Can't say much more, but I get to see some cool stuff, so of course, totally subscribe to not miss anything, including a news roundup at the end of the week, going over some Summer Game Fest stuff. And check out my previous video with new info on Assassin's Creed Shadows by clicking on the screen. I will speak to you very soon. Thanks for watching, goodbye.